Steve Gamache here with another Chef Knives to Go quick look product review, and this time we're looking at a lineup from Fujiwara. This is the FKH Carbon, Reactive Carbon Gyuto 240mm knife. So this line of knives is mono steel, so it's all the same steel construction. There's no layers or cladding, and it's composed of an SK4 reactive carbon steel, so it's easy sharpening, but again, it is reactive. The heat treat is about 60 Rockwell, so it's not super hard, and it's got a bit of forgiveness to the heat treat rating. The weight is about 8.4 ounces or 240 grams. And the blade length, this one's a little oversized, about 243 on the edge, or 9.6 inches, and the overall length about 14.6. The spine thickness, these are actually pretty thin blades, so this starts about 2.2 millimeters back above the back of the blade at the chin, and then maintains that most of the way and then starts to taper off a bit towards the tip. The tip is not super particularly thin, nor is the edge. These have a rather robust grind to the edge, and we'll see that in a close-up. The spine height is 50 millimeter approximately back at the heel, so it's got some nice clearance to it. And the handle is just kind of your standard stabilized black pack-a-wood with nice fit and finish and a pretty meaty feel to it. And so this has a fairly substantial feel, kind of middle-of-the-road size compared to a lot of Yo-handled or Western-handled 240s. Pretty standard size comparison to a lot of them that I've handled. So let's take a look at this blade, a little close-up. So it's a machine-made blade, and so you've got a pretty consistent finish on it, machine belt finish to it. And I wish the FKM series had this, the stainless, but one of the cool things about the FKH series, they've got a really cool embossed kanji and information on there. It's really cool looking. It gives it a lot more of a traditional look than the screened on the stainless series. So I like this. It really adds to the look of the blade. The spine is just a touch sharp on the corners, as is the choil, the back of the blade. So a few minutes work with some sandpaper, you can clean that up nicely to your particular requirement, but that's the only issue with the out-of-the-box fit and finish. The out-of-the-box edge on this, part of the blade, the back part was sharp, but the tip's not so sharp. And so I'll give it a 5 out of 10, maybe a 4 out of 10. So part of the blade was sharp, part of it was not. Something to keep in mind about this lineup, this is not what I would consider a left-hander friendly lineup of knives. The right side of the blade has the convexed part, right side meaning when you're holding the knife. And so this is the part that's convex, and you can kind of see the reflection showing that. The left side of the blade is actually quite flat. It's not perfectly flat, but it's much more flat than the right side of the blade. So the edge itself is also highly asymmetric. So on the right side of the blade, if we kind of hit the light there, you can see a pretty big shiny section. That is the edge bevel. It's quite large. This knife is fairly thick at the edge, so the edge bevel is correspondingly a little bit larger. And the left side of the blade edge bevel is quite a bit smaller. So not only is the grind itself asymmetrically oriented towards a right-hander, so is the edge bevel itself. So this would likely steer a fair amount for somebody who's a lefty. So this is not particularly left-hand friendly, and I am a lefty, so I pay attention to those things. The profile itself is just a good general purpose profile with a reasonably flat heel area, but a bit kind of a continuous curve area. And you can see it's fairly thick behind the edge. And you can almost see the chisel grind at the tip and also the edge of that highly asymmetric edge bevel. Let's take a look at it on our cutting board. These have a pretty solid feel to them. They're not quite as thin at the edge as their stainless line, the FKM series. So there's a bit more meat there. Whoops, went too far. There we go. Almost dropped my board. Okay, so here's what it looks like on the cutting board. You've actually got a bit of a heel flat section about right there. And real nice flow to this. So it's got a great flow, nice profile curve to it. And fair amount of belly at the tip. I can get pretty high there before I start digging that tip in. I'm still not digging that tip in, so I can get pretty high with this blade. So it's got a fair amount of belly towards the tip. So it'd make a nice rocker, plus a little bit of a flat heel area for some chopping, push cutting. So this is a pretty good all-around profile in my opinion. Balance point on the blade is just right about there, just in front of the bolster. So again, fit and finish is nice on the handle, nice flow from the bolster in. The only part I personally would mess with would be the choil here. Sand that up a little bit, maybe a little bit of the spine where your finger is, and you're good to go. The box edge, you'll need to probably sharpen this up a little bit if you have this particular knife. It won't be going up as a video knife because I haven't done anything with it. But anyway, it's a solid lineup. The steel is easy to sharpen. It is pretty reactive, so it takes a bit to set a patina on it. But once you get the patina, then you've got that part covered. And it's a nice, if you want an introduction to a carbon steel blade at an inexpensive price with a nice profile. Again, right-hand friendly, this particular lineup of knives. The Fujiwara FKH Carbon Gyuto 240mm knife.